Yes, that's gonna work. What's up, YouTube? So today I'm excited. This is gonna be part 3 of my vintage air install on my 1966 C10 behind me. If you have not seen part 1 and part 2, the links will be in the description of those videos. Please go check them out. But if you have seen part 2, and you know I ran into a scenario with the lower radiator hose coming in contact with the belt that drives the compressor. Well, I got that solved with this part number right here from Napa. So that's going to solve that issue there. Really excited about that, because that was a big major issue I had to deal with. So now I can officially install this hose, and we can fill that radiator with some coolant, start the engine up, test my fans. Because I did part 1, I did some electric fans install, make sure everything's kicking on like it's supposed to, test all that stuff out. And once that's said and done, then I can finally squirt a little Freon in the system. That way I can get a little frosty cold air hitting me right in the mug. Alright guys, it's going to be a good day today, so let's get to it. Alright, so I want to go ahead and finish routing the air duct work for the AC unit. I already got one installed, and this one goes to the driver's side vent. Well, I did that off camera because it was a bit of a chore for me. One thing you have to do is you have to route it over your wiring and behind your gauge cluster to come back down and go to the vent. Probably not going to be that big a deal, but for me it was extremely difficult because earlier this year I installed cruise control from Dakota Digital, and I hid the cruise control module. Since it's kind of ugly to look at, I hid it behind the dash. So once I had to kind of pull the gauge cluster back, got the hose tucked in there, and everything worked out for me. So that's why that one is installed. So we got 3 more spouts to do. They're really short shots, 2 and 3. Got plenty of hose, plenty of tubing to do that, so I should be good to go. Defrost is already done. Alright guys, let me go and get all this cut to fit installed, and we can move on to the next thing. This spout on the back bottom one is your driver's side driver's side vent. The one above it is your driver's side center, so that would be this spout here. And then the 2 front ones, the bottom one is going to be the center passenger, so that spout right there, and then the top one's going to be the other one, which is right here. I've been just using just a sharp razor blade to trim all this stuff. And this, it does expand, and it looks like it's not metal, it's plastic, so it cuts really easy with just some side cutters. Take off my melon cover because it's probably going to be in the way. A little tricky getting this to go over. It's going into an oval shape there a little bit. There will be some plastic nubs that needs to snap over, the little plastic ring. Once you get it on over that, it should be nice and seated. One down, technically 2 down and 2 to go. And it's a tight fit up in here, I can tell you. Got the plastic. Alright, let's do the final one here. Alright, tubing is installed. Alright, looks like everything's working. Fans kicked on several times. I believe I got all the air out of the system. Not seeing no more action in the bowl there on the radiator. Alternator's putting out. I'm not seeing any major voltage drop from there to the battery. So I think that 4-gauge cable seems to be working okay. I did test the switches, blower motor, everything's working. I did turn it on heat, get the coolant to go through the control valve, and all the modes were working, so that's good. temporarily hooked up to the battery, but I will be changing it over to Keon shortly. All right, I got a few things to take care of, like that, and we'll go from there. All right, you see what's behind me? Those are a set of AC gauges and a vacuum pump right there on the driver fender. Now, the vacuum pump is not mine. I borrowed that from a friend who lives not too far from me, about 15 minutes. And I also borrowed a set of AC gauges. But I think his gauges are bad. That's why I have a brand new set behind me made from Pittsburgh. Or that's the brand. So you know Pittsburgh means Harbor Freight. When you hear Harbor Freight, you think quality. No. Cheap, made in China. Paid 50 bucks. Doesn't matter. I think we're going to be okay. Because when I was using his gauges yesterday, I already had all this going. I kept having bleed off issues, especially on the low side. And so I think there might be some deterioration in the seals or in the hoses or what's going on there, because they're pretty old set. Looks like they're still okay, but I think we got some issues there. So when I bought this set, come home, connect everything, and I only ran the pump for 5 minutes. Got it all the way down to 28 inches of vacuum, and it's been about 30 minutes. So let's see where we're at right now. Looks like 28 to me. I don't know about you. High side really doesn't have any numbers, but it looks like it's been pretty consistent sitting there. What I think I'm going to do is put a piece of masking tape on the right side of that needle of the gauge, and then when I finally, after I get done vacuuming it down, I'm going to close the valves, and we'll see if that needle is moved away from the tape. If it's moved away from the tape, then I know the high side's got a leak somewhere. But if it stays right on the edge of that tape, then I know we're good. So I think what I'm going to go ahead and do is turn the pump back on, open the valves, and I'm going to let this thing run for probably another 2-3 hours. I'm at home, so I can let it run for as long as I want. After that, close the valve, shut it off, and probably every hour tonight, leading into tomorrow, we're going to monitor the gauges. If they're not moving, it's holding consistently, then we know we got a good tight seal. Then it's time for these. I got these at Harbor Freight as well, made by Johnson's. It's made in USA. It's a can of 134A. I don't know if there's any difference between Freons, but we're going with that brand. I got 3 cans, like I said. I know I'm going to need 2, but I just got an extra can just to play it safe. All right, I'm going to stop rambling. Go ahead and turn the pump back on, open the valves. Let's get a few hours of vacuuming through the system, and we'll be finally start monitoring to see if we got any leaks. I hope we don't, because I'm ready to put that Freon in the system and test it. Can't wait for that cold air to hit me in the mug. So I got the pump back on, it's buzzing away. Both valves are open. Still at 28 inches of vacuum. So I think what we're going to go ahead and do is let that run for probably 3-4 hours. Like I said, I'm at home, so I can let it run for as long as I want. Then after that, we'll close these 2 valves, shut that off, and monitor those needles. If they don't move at all, then we got a nice tight seal. And we'll probably let it set for about a day, and hopefully it holds up. And after that, you know what it's time for. All right, let's go ahead and monitor the situation. I'll be back in 1 hour to see where we're at. All right, guys, it's been 24 hours and the needles have not moved. You know what it's time to do. All right, guys, before I start up the truck, I need to screw a can of Freon to the end of the yellow hose. You gotta have both couplers open on the lines, high side and low side. However, you keep this one closed on the high side. Keep that one closed at all times while you're charging. You have to open that one. But when you screw the can in, there's a little bleeder, like a Schrader valve, like a tire. You unscrew that, and before we put Freon in it, we need to purge that and get all the air out of the line. Once we start seeing Freon come out, then we'll know we're ready to go. Now the system requires 1.8 pounds according to Vintage Air instructions. That also comes to 28.8 ounces. Now I have no way of knowing what pounds are, but I bought a cheap scale from Harbor Freight, and I went ahead and wrote, I bought 3 cans, and I wrote on the bottom of each can, a full can, how much it weighs. So we're gonna do math. There's gonna be a little bit of math involved today. We're gonna try to get to 28.8 pounds, or at least 28 pounds, or excuse me, 28 ounces in the system. So first things first, I'm gonna go ahead, screw a can in, and we're gonna start the truck, purge the line, open the valve, and then turn the AC system on. Freon. All right, we'll go ahead and crank the truck up. I got the truck running. They recommend turning the idle up to 1500 RPM and having a fan in front of the truck. Oh, compressor just kicked on. That means at least my primary switch is wired up correctly. I see Freon in there. I think once we stop seeing refrigerant, that little sight glass, then this can should be empty. We'll measure, what we need to do is weigh this can. That way we know how much to subtract from this one being, let's say, 15.1 ounces. Because the can may weigh 3 or 4 ounces, so we need to keep that in mind. Alright, I'm not seeing it come in, just come out of this one anymore. Change it out. Ooh, it's getting hot this garage. Right now we got 23.6 ounces out of the 2 cans. So we got skeet a little bit out of this can. The system should be full. Y'all caught that. There was so much for me personally going on. I was getting a little overwhelmed. I'm trying to fill the system with Freon. I'm watching the gauge. I'm watching the compressor. I'm trying to explain things with you. And I totally didn't even realize the fans didn't kick on. It took me a few minutes to figure it out. Once I did, I had to shut everything down and find out what happened. I have not finalized the key on wire to the temperature switch. So I had it directly to the battery. Whatever reason that fuse was popped. I don't know why. I have to look into that. I may need to call Vintage Air on this and try to figure out what's going on. The only other small thing I might be concerned with is I think I put too much Freon in it by 1 ounce. It's supposed to be 28.8 ounces. I've got 29.8. You know, my measuring device, how accurate that is, that could be a variable one way or the other. And it could be right on the money at 28. They're blowing at 40 degrees. The pressures were within spec to the sheet, to the instructions that they give. But overall, the system is working. Blowing pretty cold air. 40 degrees is good air, especially when it's 96 degrees in the garage right now. Woo! Man, this is why I don't wear hats in the summer. I can't stand tracking my legs. But I do it because I'm losing a little solid on the fairway up there. I don't know if y'all have noticed in recent videos. I could use a little fertilizer in a resod. Enough about my hairline. Back to the truck. Before I drive this, I need to figure out what's going on with my fan issue. Make sure the trinary switch is wired up correctly. And make sure that temperature switch is working. If it's bad, then I need to get another one. I can wire it up to where the fans run at all times. That's not that big a deal. But I want the temperature switch to work. That's why I bought it. So you see where I'm at. Let me go ahead and try to figure these things out. And once I do that, I'll correct it. I'll tell you what I found and what I did to correct it. Go ahead to finalize it before we do a test drive. We'll go ahead and put the glove box in because I don't think we need it off anymore. We'll take this thing for a little test drive and see how really cold it gets in those vents. Alright, can't think of nothing else to say, so let me figure out what's going on and I'll get back to you. The moment you have been waiting for. The glove box. Probably not. But unless you want to open your door and look at this, they do provide one of these. Now what they don't provide in the kit that I just now realized is the upper clips to screw into, because the old factory cardboard has them crimped in there. I already checked mine. I replaced it years ago when I got the truck because it didn't even have one. But the clips, the factory clips, are still on the side. So if you don't have any clips to run through the top, I guess you can always just use the 4 screws to hold it in. Other than that, let's see how easy it is to install. Should be pretty easy, right? You just got to jiggle it like 16 times and it'll wiggle itself in there. Okay, 20 times. Yeah, I like it when all the simple projects are the pain in the... Well, it may be a part 4, guys. It may take me an hour just to get this glove box in. All right, there it is, the infamous glove box installed. And by far, the most annoying thing I've installed throughout this whole process. I had to do an extensive amount of editing because there was probably 2, maybe 300 cuss words used to install this box. But it's officially installed. Door closes. Door opens like it's supposed to. So now that all the pieces in the kit have been installed, there's only one thing left to do. Test drive. What's up, guys? So today is a new day. We're on the driver's side portion of the engine bay. Now you might be wondering to yourself, why are we on the driver's side portion of the engine bay? Well, let me explain why we are. Now you may not have noticed, but there's an item missing. But if you look closely, utilize the chicken eye, you'll notice right here, there's an item missing. And what that item is called, it's an alternator. Now you might be new to this and be asking yourself, Charlie, what's an alternator? Now before you stop the video to Google what an alternator is, let me go ahead and explain it for you. See, what an alternator is, it's kind of a round device. It's got a pulley in front of it. It's got some mounting tabs that attach to some bracket-tri. And then there's a drive belt that goes around that said pulley. And that drive belt attaches to other pulleys that's attached to the engine. And see, what that does is when the engine's spinning, so is the alternator. And when the alternator's spinning, guess what it's doing? It's creating what they call electricity, current, voltage, sparky. And see, what that sparky stuff does is it comes out the end of the alternator. There's a stud at the end of it. And it goes directly into this cable. Shoots all the way down the cable, coming out the other end of the cable, going directly to the battery. Now that does 2 things. 1, maintains a charge on your battery. And when you shut it off, when you come back later on to start it, your engine starts right up. And 2, it sends electricity to keep all your electronics flowing and going while you're cruising down the road. So, the reason why my brand new 150 amp PowerMaster alternator is no longer attached to this engine is because it didn't do anything I just described. That's right. It died. And it almost nearly left me stranded. So what I did went ahead and extracted the dead alternator, put it back in the box that it came in, and went to Summit Racing and exchanged it for an identical but brand new alternator. You see, the definition of insanity is to do the same thing over and over and over, expecting a different result. So I'm going to do just that and go insane, install the brand new alternator. Shut this system off because it is hot in the garage. That's one thing I need to get, is some kind of solenoid that idles up the it turns up the idle when you turn the AC on. That's the only thing I need to add. If I have it idled up too high, it diesels when I shut it off. If I have it idle too low, it pulls that voltage down to about that number. Not going to work. The only thing I need to do is put this cover on. I'm a little frustrated and might be a little bit upset at myself because I think I messed up the trinary switch. The way I had it wired originally when I was putting the Freon in, I may have shorted it out because right now, if you ohm out the two blue wires, it shows open. I don't know if it's supposed to be open or not, but it's open. I messed with this for about an hour yesterday because I got a diagram schematic from Painless Wiring. Talked to their tech support a couple days ago. Spoke to a guy named Charlie, so you know I got sound advice. At any rate, basically what I learned is you no longer ground the relays. The relays are grounded through the trinary switch. So I think when I popped that fuse, I may have also shorted out the circuit in the switch because I can't get the fans to kick on with the AC on, and it's not doing anything. So I may have to get another trinary switch in the future, but because you can't just unscrew that and screw a new one in. I mean, you got to evacuate the system, change out the switch, and then fill it back up. So that's going to be another time for another date. Right now I got it to where the fans kick on when I key it on, so I'm leaving it at that. Sometime this weekend we'll take it for a little test drive and just give you my overall opinion of the system and just the install and how everything I feel went, and that'll probably pretty much wrap up part 3. So got a few things I got to do. Probably this weekend we're going to take it for a little test drive. Alright guys, I'm going to get back to it. Alright guys, before I forget, I wanted to show y'all something. This black 4-gauge cable is grounded to the back of the alternator case, and it's going right here to the factory 283 manifolds. They still got the threaded bosses that are cast into them for the alternator bracket. So I got one going there, and I have another ground cable 4-gauge going to the frame. And I got the 2 cables going to the back of the alternator to this threaded boss that's cast into the case. Be careful, these are metric threads. They're 8 by 1.25. So just pay attention to that. Some of them do come 5/16 by 18, but this was metric. This is the only thing I've done differently outside of the first one I installed, because I was reading the instructions that sometimes the alternators don't ground properly through the alternator brackets due to paint and powder coat. I don't know if that was my issue and why the first one prematurely failed, but I went ahead and took these steps to hopefully alleviate that. I guess what I'll go ahead and do is just give you my overall review and opinion of the install of all the products that I used, as well as my personal opinion of the products themselves. As far as the install goes, I would say you can knock it out in a weekend. Man, you're gonna have to have a buddy, or you really hustle. You know, you don't want to rush too much, do too much rushing trying to get something done in a weekend, but you got a couple of guys, you know, a friend or two help you out. Yeah, you can probably knock out an AC system install in a weekend with electric fans, upgrade the wiring, stuff like that. With me by myself plus filming, took a little longer. I would say personally, kind of take a moment to assess the situation. If you're going to be installing an AC system and dual electric fans, think of your charging system. Think of the wiring. Is your wiring the original wiring under the vehicle? If it is, you might want to look into replacing all that before you go ahead and add all these electronic components on old school wiring. Like I did the firewall pad, which will be a video once I wrap this one up. I'll finish that one up as well. Firewall pad, any sound deadening, any insulation you want to do, now's the time to do it. Just because the kit costs $2,100 doesn't mean you're not going to spend quite a bit more money on the install. So just keep that in mind. As far as the products, my overall opinion, the dual electric fans from Durali, they work amazing. Work really good in junction with the paintless wiring, relays, all that stuff's working great. Leading up into the main system, or the main item we installed, which is the vintage air. Give my pros and cons. We'll start with the pros first. Kit's mostly complete. I think they should add, or like I complained earlier in part 2, they need to make gaskets for the covers, plates and all that stuff. There should be gaskets. You shouldn't have to buy your own silicone or RTV or any of that crap and do it that way. And or provide silicone in the kit, along with they should throw 5 or 6 feet of heater hose. I think that's fair. You're spending $2,000 plus tax, almost $2,100 on a kit like this. Throw in some heater hose. That's my only 2 small gripes as far as the kit not being complete. Watch yourself, F-150. Dude started sneaking out there. Like, wait a minute now, come on. I think the instructions are pretty clear, pretty good. They got a good schematic. I got some good troubleshooting deals, which is kind of how I found out when the alternator crapped out on me. The AC shut down. That's how I found out there was an issue going on. The AC system stopped blowing cold. Next thing I know, I turned the blower switch off, wait a few seconds to try to turn it back on, see if it reset, and nothing. It didn't even come on. So I thought, man, AC system's probably fried. Alright, let me go in here and get a switch and I shall return. Alright, got one of these high quality switches from O'Reilly's. So yeah, when I get home, I troubleshoot everything. Looking for bad fuse, check the relay, check wiring, just checked everything. Couldn't find anything obviously wrong with the AC system. So I just keyed it on, turned the blower motor on, started spinning. You can even hear the clutch click on. Trying to start the truck, dead battery. So that was frustrating. That's how I found out the alternator went bad. Luckily I was real close to home, but I think I probably drove another few miles. It probably would have left me stranded like I stated earlier. So now I got to do more testing, more driving. The alternator goes out again, maybe too small. I don't know. Only time, unfortunately, miles is going to tell me whether that's possible or not. Now, a couple of issues I did have outside of the trinary switch and the alternator was when I took the vacuum pump back to my friend, this thing wasn't cooling the same as it was when it was sitting in the garage idling. I couldn't figure out why. I'm thinking, But it's pretty nice. It kind of snaps in there. It's got a black backing and a chrome beauty ring. I think they have one that's just all black, but I would get one with the chrome beauty ring if I was going to change to that. One thing I do need to add, like I stated earlier, is that idle up solenoid. I need some kind of idle up solenoid to compensate when the compressor's on. That's really the only thing. Other than that, I think the system's mostly complete. And at some point, I'll probably replace that trinary switch with another one. Unless somebody can chime in on the comments below, maybe they know exactly what I'm doing wrong. Let me know. Alright guys, we'll head back home, put that little switch I just purchased in the truck. That way at least I have on-off control for my fans. And that'll be pretty much it. Like I always say guys, until then, thanks for watching.